All right, we'd like to call this meeting of the West Dallas West Milwaukee School District to order, please. If we could please rise for the pledge. Mr. Eustruck, would you please lead us?
I pledge allegiance to the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all.
Okay, thank you, everyone. Suzette, can we please do the roll?
Yes. Mr. Keller?
Here.
Mr. Bailey?
Present.
Ms. Klug? Here. Mr. Lee?
Here.
Mr. Schultz?
Present.
Mr. Sickett?
Present.
Mrs. Justin?
Present.
Mr. Eustruck?
Here.
President Emmett?
Here. Proper notice of this meeting has been posted in accordance with the open meeting laws of the state of Wisconsin. Do we have any changes or modifications to tonight's agenda?
I have none.
Any board members? Okay. If not, then we will go on to public comments. I do have one listed for tonight. Sister Cecilia, if you want to come up to the podium and just state your name and address, and you'll have 3 minutes then to address the board. Come on up.
Good evening. My name is Sister Cecilia Ndile, Little Sisters of St. Francis from Africa, Kenya, but currently a student at Madison. And I was recommended this board meeting by my clinical officer, whom kind of directed me to join the meetings here for some classwork and administrative activities. And so I went through Margaret, who connected me to Mr. Hadam, and through that I was able to be here for these meetings. I started joining the meetings last semester, and a lot which was kind of expected for that semester, I was able to cover that. And it is through this meeting that I was able to accomplish what my clinic officer wanted me to do. And so for me, the reason of being here today is to express my sincere thanks and gratitude to you all for allowing me to be here, to learn what I was supposed to learn, and more so to enable me to do what my clinical officer wanted me to do. If it were not for this board meeting, much of what I was required to do, I could not have accomplished. And therefore, my reason of being here today actually is not so much to attend the meeting, but to express my gratitude and to appreciate the fact that I was supposed to be allowed to be here and gather the information that was needed. There was a lot to be done according to mass questionnaires and much of what he expected each and every student to accomplish. And through this meeting, I was able to accomplish all that, and I am so grateful for all that. In addition, I learned a lot during that meeting, and especially I was able to connect quite a number of things from what my professors were talking during class time, different class sessions. There were quite a number of things they kept on recommending and referring from different areas. And so being here, the few times I attended meeting last year, I was able to capture some of those areas. And so it was kind of, helping me to realize that what they were talking about is kind of a reality. And so I feel so much like a lot was given to me from this meeting. And therefore, I say thank you very much to all. Margaret, who connected me to Adam, and all those here present. Finally, I thank each one of you, and I hope that as time continues, because I'm still within the program, any other thing that he would like us to do, because he's always referring me back here, I hope that I'll have an opportunity and I'll be allowed to attend the meeting and gather the information as it is expected. I'll be very grateful if such an opportunity is offered to me when time comes. Thank you very much.
Thank you. Thank you.
Thank you very much.
Thank you.
Okay, that's all I have listed for public comments. We will then go on to the superintendent's report.
Great, thank you. So today, superintendent's report is going to start with a report from the West Allis Nathan Hale High School student representatives. So if you introduce yourselves again and then share what's going on at Hale.
Okay. I am Nicholas Powers. I'm a junior at Nathan Hale.
I'm Anna Coleman. I'm a senior at Nathan Hale.
Okay. This month we will like to highlight the following from Nathan Hale. Winter Formal Week is upcoming. Our upcoming ACT test, academic and athletic updates, and our musical production Cinderella. Winter Formal, the Nathan Hale Winter Formal is this Saturday, February 16th from 7:30 to 10:30 p.m. in our gym. The theme is James Bond Skyfall. We will have a pep assembly beginning at 1:30 on Friday to honor our winter sports and activities, as well as a variety of dress-up days and class competitions for the most spirited class. The spirit dress days are as follows. Today was USA Day. Tomorrow is Generation Day. Wednesday is Spy Day. Thursday is Middle School Day. Friday is Color Day. The freshmen wear green, sophomores pink, juniors blue, and seniors red. Our ACT week is upcoming. The statewide ACT test is being given to all juniors at Nathan Hale High School all over the state next week, Wednesday and Thursday, February 20th and 21st. All juniors will be taking the ACT and ACT Work Keys tests as a measure of individual student college and career readiness, as well as the Department of Public Instruction accountability measure impacting our school state school rating. We wish our juniors the best of luck on this assessment. It has been an awesome winter season at Nathan Hale in both our academics and athletics, and we have been much proud to be part of that at Husky Nation. First and foremost, looking at our student academic achievement, they have demonstrated excellence in the classroom with 612 of our students achieving honor roll status for the first semester. This is not only a reflection of our students' efforts, but also of our dedicated and talented staff at Nathan Hale. These students will be recognized at our annual academic banquet in May. Art honors. We are proud to share and celebrate news about two very talented Hale art students. Seniors Maggie Marcinkowitz and Mason Wheat were accepted into the competitive Milwaukee Art Museum Satellite Teen Internship Program for second semester. Acceptance occurs only after the following criteria are met. Letters of recommendation are written on behalf of the students. A series of 4 to 5 personal, in-depth questions are answered by the student, and an interview takes place with the student. This program is open to all students in the surrounding Wisconsin area school districts, and we've been able to send at least one student per year for the last 4 years. In the Milwaukee Art Museum Satellite Teen Internship Program, artistic interns delve into the museum. They engage deeply with works of art, meet with working artists, learn career and leadership skills, mentor elementary students, and create collaborative artwork with peers from across Milwaukee. Congratulations to Maggie and Mason. What a great opportunity. I'll now turn it over to Anna.
And for athletic and club updates, congratulations to the Nathan Hale dance team on their outstanding performances last month at regionals. They took second place with their kick routine and fourth place with their pom routine, qualifying them to compete both routines at state. Then at the state dance championships, they earned 6th place in Division I kick and 9th place in Division I pom, among some insanely talented teams in tough competition. They competed their award-winning pom and kick routines with amazing energy and showmanship that lit up the floor, not to mention having their best performances of the year. The 25 dancers on this team, including myself, dedicated the last 10-month season to choreography, learning, perfecting, and performing beautiful routines every time they take the floor. We thank the ladies for working hard all year, bringing energy to every home sporting event they perform at, and representing Nathan Hale High School to the highest level. The boys' dive team performed outstanding at the conference meet on February 2nd with Sebastian Wickers scoring his personal best of 367 points and was conference champion, while Tristan Sawyer took third with his personal best 263 points. Both divers competed at the sectionals this past Friday, with Sebastian Wickers qualifying for the WIAA state meet by scoring 367 points and taking third at sectionals. He will be competing in Madison this Saturday and be recognized at the Pep Assembly this Friday. Our Husky wrestling team under new head coach Kyle Courtier finished in the middle of the standings at the competitive GMC conference meet in early February. Then this past weekend at regionals, Hale had 8 wrestlers qualify for the sectional meet in Racine this Saturday. We wish them the best of luck on their quest for state. The Nathan Hale students in the ID program had the opportunity to compete in the annual Job Olympics hosted by Arrowhead High School. Students participated and competed in various job-centered events such as interviewing, office assistant/clerical work, and money and time management skills. Approximately 15 other students participated in the event. Nathan Hale's students proudly placed 8th all around. Did you know 1 pint of blood can save up to 3 lives? Cancer patients, accident victims, and patients with blood disorders often require frequent blood transfusions, and there is an urgent need for blood at this time. The Hale Winter Blood Drive was held last Thursday, February 7th, and we met our goal of 92 pints donated. That will save up to 275 lives. Planning ahead, Hale Husky Drama will be performing Rodgers and Hammerstein's Cinderella, March 7th through the 10th. Showtimes are Thursday, Friday, and Saturday at 7 p.m. and a Sunday matinee at 2 p.m. Tickets are available at the box office prior to the show or at halehuskydrama.weebly.com. $12 for adults, $10 for seniors and students, and $8 for children 10 and under. And lastly, for the Athletic Hall of Fame, Nathan Hale had our second induction to the Athletic Hall of Fame last Friday, sponsored by the Athletic Booster Club. It was an extremely talented and well-deserving group of nominees spanning 50 years from the 1940s when Hale was a 7th through 12th grade high school to the year 2000. We congratulate Robin Alt, Sam Antcliffe, Leighton Betts, Jim Fleming, Pat Levenhagen, and Don Pavletic on being the second class of inductees into the Nathan Hale Athletic Hall of Fame. They all had the qualities of outstanding athletes and coaches with resumes of state appearances, state titles, school, state, and personal records, multi-sport athletes, along with competition and success at the college and professional level. Thanks for letting us share some great things going on this past month at Nathan Hale.
Any comments or questions for the students? All right, thank you guys so
Thank you.
much.
Thank
Good luck
you.
to
Thank
you. Yeah, good luck the next couple weeks. See you soon.
Thank you. All right, we'll go on to 7.2, the school showcase. So the school showcase this evening is Nathan Hale High School, and try to organize it that way when it's central and then the central showcase. So, welcome the team from Nathan Hale.
All right.
Thank you.
Yeah, I should try that. Yeah, I don't think that speaker's working now. Yeah, thanks for having us this evening. Appreciate it. Mary Washbush is our academic dean at Nathan Hale, so she joins me today to share some things out. Okay.
Okay,
All right. Yeah, I know the kids talked about our musical, and that changed from like 2 weekends to 1 weekend. They needed an extra week with the 4 days off in there to get some practice in. So instead of going a Friday, Saturday, and then a Friday, Saturday, Sunday, they just went Thursday, Friday, Saturday, Sunday the second week. So you'll see that on the calendar adjustment. All right. Well, once again, thanks for having us tonight. I'll try to keep it, yeah, right, 10 years now, yeah. 10 years now, it's like, okay, start the clock. Remember, 10 to 15, Matt, okay?
I got a timer on my computer.
Okay, now we're starting right now. But no, it's like, it's really tough to narrow some things down because first of all, the high schoolers come each month, so they lay a lot of stuff out there. We got a lot of great things going on. We only get one shot at this, once every 2 years, so it's like you want to throw it all out there, but I get it. So we focused on the bright spots, the challenges, and the highlights like we're supposed to. Going to focus on, there's a lot of bright spots, but once again, the students do that each month, so you hear a lot of stuff going on. So. But student recognition we're going to look at, and then the school improvement process, just to talk a little bit about that. So I'm going to talk about recognition. Mary's going to talk about school improvement process. Some challenges with academic career planning initiatives with the advisory schedule, and not so much challenges to do it, but how do you bring it all together into that advisory and have everything feed off each other real fluid and that just connecting the pieces. And then our big highlight is just focusing on the deeper learning competencies and some activities that we want to share, and we'll go from there. Okay, so the first thing, you're just going to see some photos there that go with just this whole bright spot of focusing on community building and student recognition. One of our goals this year was around student behavior, reducing like behavior referrals, out-of-school suspensions, things like that. So it's like, once again, we get into that PBIS piece about recognizing students for great things. And I'm just going to jump down to the bottom. It says school behavior data for first semester. It says office discipline referrals, 327, okay, for the first half of the year. And then positive behavior referrals, it's one of the things I want to talk about, is 390. So the idea was to try to outweigh the positive than what's not so positive. And so I'll jump back up to the positive behavior referrals. So that was the bright spot, was seeing how staff bought into this, kids are really doing great things, and that we recognize that. So we started it last year a little bit, and then we dove more into it this year with Connie Bergman as the assistant principal taking a lead with this. But teachers can refer students for positive behavior referrals, and there's a student there at the top with the pink referral sheet, and they're referred from the teacher for classroom, for school-wide pieces around responsibility, effort, being role models, good grades, attendance, participation, anything they can think of to really shine. And once the students get the referral, they come down, they meet with Connie each month, and they receive just, it's unbelievable, the kid, even high schoolers, like little stuff, okay? So they get some gel pens or notepads or earbuds. They get some candy, all just out of the candy bowl. A buy one, get one free movie pass. So they get all these things. We've added on this paw print on the bottom. They put their name on a paw print and it goes on a window where you're making positive impact on the school, okay? So that's something we're doing, and that's right up the steps coming up from the commons, so you see it right at the first window in the science rooms right there. So that's what we were trying to get it out there in front of people. The communications sent home, and then they're within the nominations for the student of the month. And then we choose out of that group of students, the student of the month each month. The darker one was just, you can see it's crossed off with the address and things. A parent posted that online and said it's just really awesome to get recognized, have your student recognized. We're really proud of them. So that was, they posted on their Facebook page. One of our teachers saw it, forwarded it to Connie, and said that's really a neat thing. So so that's a bright spot that we see, that we're making an impact. We have more positive referrals coming in than office discipline referrals, and we're moving in the right direction. So the second piece is around school improvement, and you get the information that each school, if they met expectations or exceeded expectations, well, obviously we want to exceed expectations. We continue to meet expectations on the state report card, and we went up 5.5 on this report card from last year. We feel as though a bright spot is putting in good processes into our school improvement plan to make that impact. I did just put a few bullets there. That school report card, 17-18 this past year was 68.7, and it grew from 63.2. And we got to get into that 70 mark to reach the exceeds. So that's our goal. And subgroups, we've been focusing more on that closing the gap is really where we made the most increase last year. The report card from 17 to 18 was 72.6 points from 57.8 the prior year. And that was closing gaps in ELA, math, and graduation. So that's between all the different subgroups, and that's really a focus this year. Mary will talk a little bit about that, about how that's built into our school improvement process. It's like, if you don't measure it, you don't keep it up front, you tend to forget about it a little bit. So we made that one of the things we want the staff members to continue to look at as we move forward. But we do use this model, building-wide, PDSA, a Plan, Do, Study, Act cycle, with our collaborative teams. So our teams meet weekly, and they meet like an algebra group, or a biology group, or an English 9 group, or a U.S. history group, or whatnot. And they look at their data by quarter, and they create plans around this. So the plan part is really to plan to carry out what they see, to actually do it for a period of time. They post-assess and get some data from it, and then they re-look at it again at the end of the quarter and make some adjustments. So that's kind of the cycle we use within Nathan Hale. And so I'll turn it over to Mary.
Our school improvement process has been in place for now 3 years with the same focus, and our focus is on embedding ACT College and Career Readiness, or WorkKeys College and Career Readiness. So all of our collaborative teams do a pre-assessment that's based on ACT or WorkKeys for every student in the school. Based on their analysis of that data, every collaborative team, whether it be Algebra 1, U.S. History 9, Biology, World Language, identifies key skills that students in their collaborative team need to grow in.
Tech ed, yeah.
Yep, tech ed, phy ed, music, you name it. All the departments in the school work on these two areas, ACT and WorkKeys. Because that's how we are measured, and that's what's important for our students to exit with that college career readiness, those skills intact, and as high as they can possibly be. So the students do a pre-assessment, the teachers analyze the data, the teachers create a plan where they do instruction around those key skills for a quarter, and then we do a post-assessment, and the teachers just did their assessment at the semester, where they're looking at whether kids grew or not in those targeted skills, and they then identify the next batch of skills that they want to work on. They spend 9 weeks working on those skills, teaching those skills, having the kids practice those skills, do some formative assessment around those skills, and then at the end of quarter 3, we'll do another assessment to see who's grown. One of the things that's really different this year is we looked at not only all of our kids and closing the gaps of all of our kids, but looking at a subgroup. So every single collaborative team has identified a subgroup, whether it's be our students with an IEP, our students from a different demographic group, whether it be our African American students, our Hispanic students, our Asian students, our ELL students, and they're actually monitoring the growth on those ongoing assessments over the course of the year to see if we're closing gaps. If they find that students are not performing as well as the whole group, they come up with strategies that are going to target those specific students in order to help us decrease those learning gaps of all of our students. On the picture, you'll see that in the upper sort of right section, that's our students taking the practice ACT. We think it's really important for our students to get a practice. They get to experience ACT before they take it for real on February 20th. We are using Method Test Prep as well as our other ACT readiness resources to help build the skills of our students. And then just at the bottom, that's our progress monitoring form that every single collaborative team is keeping track of data. There are a list of about 8 or 9 reflective questions that encourage teachers to look at their data, reflect on how their students are doing, what they're doing in the classroom, and what they can change to help all students grow. But that's our school improvement plan. This is our 3rd year. We're hopeful that when we get our next ACT scores, that we'll start to see some movement. We've been at like 19 as our school average. We're hoping that that's going to increase, because after 3 years, we wanted to grow up a little bit. 4 years, 5 years, we wanted to go up even more. So that's our school improvement process, which is one of our bright spots.
Challenges. Okay, so I put up, we talked about this and what we want to share, and academic career planning and advisory. We have an advisory or a homeroom period each day. Teachers have about 24 students that they work with daily, and really, it's like it says, the advisory program to provide students the opportunity to develop socially, emotionally, and academically by building a relationship with one key person in the building. That's the goal of it, or the mission. But the goals are below. It talks about supporting student development and college and career readiness, personalizing their experience, at least one person knows them really well, advise students about academic attendance and behavior decisions, keeps kids from falling through the cracks. All those are goals of that mission. And so how we set that up, and it's really trying to take it all and feather it all together. We do a lot of different things on different days, and in the end, it's like, how do you bring that into like an academic plan for the student over time? So we're doing a lot of things, and they're all good things, but then how do you really bring it into one complete program? So I guess that would be the challenge at this point. Mondays, you got to get announcements out there and highlights for the week and give people props, like everything that's read here by the kids about going to state and this and that, and pumping up your building and getting names out there and accolades. So we do a lot of that on Mondays and set the tone for the week. Tuesdays and Thursdays, a real neat thing that we had access to, and you're well aware of it, Panorama. Tuesdays and Thursdays, our advisors meet with kids and go through some of the academic attendance and behavior data with them. And the object is, if you have about 24 students, if you meet with 3 kids on Tuesday and 3 on Thursday, that's 6 a week. You should be able to get them in a monthly rotation. And so that's 9 contacts with a student during the year, whereas without an advisory, it'd be none. So at least and each time you're kind of talking about the next goal for the next check-in, like where are you at? So that's a part of that as well on those Tuesdays and Thursdays. We have Thursdays as well for freshman mentors. They do some lessons within their advisories. And then Fridays every other week is a PBIS lesson around community building. But at the top there, they're kind of small photos, but that was our career fair that we had. That's part of ACP. We took juniors on either they could go to a 2-year school or a 4-year school. They could sign up. One year we made them go to both. That was 2 years ago, and this year we asked them to sign up for which location they'd like to go to. So students, juniors had an opportunity, because that's their big year that they're trying to make some decisions on that as they move forward. And that's just a team building activity down on the right, a cup activity that they're using with strings and stuff and trying to build things. So a number of things go together with that, but really it's putting that academic plan together, and how do you make that where you bring in that self-directed learning piece and where those discussions all occur and bring it all together. We are going to look to Panorama and the SEL surveys that were done. We've been getting training in that during PD days. So we're looking at our next PD day next week to roll the next phase out to staff about, what does that data mean, and then how can we use the activities to build those qualities in the students to raise that SEL number that we get. So that's where we're at right now with that.
Another highlight is our focus in our building around the deeper learning competencies. When we were first given the opportunity to start investigating deeper learning competencies, Matt and Erin Norris and Connie Bergman and I sat down and looked at how can we get every single teacher experience in those competencies, and how can we grow their skills in the competencies. Because whenever you introduce something new, it becomes this overwhelming thing. And we didn't want deeper learning to be overwhelming, because it should not be. It should be the way we operate. And so our approach was to have the teachers select into one of 5 cohort groups that focused on one of the deeper learning competencies. And those cohort groups are led by other teachers in the building, and then there's an administrator that's aligned with that cohort, so that we act as a conduit for information and resources. The teachers are the leaders and help guide the work of the other teachers in their cohort. And so we've been meeting since October around these deeper learning competencies, and the cohorts have met probably 4, 5, 6 times. The goal in Q1 was to really help the cohorts learn what their competency focused on, what it looked like, what they're currently doing in the classroom. In second quarter, they were implementing an activity or 2 or 3 around that competency, reflecting on how it went, what they could do to improve, sharing out with the other colleagues in their cohort about what happened, what went well, what didn't go well, and then planning for the next deeper learning activity that they were going to have their students engage in. On our next PD day, February 18th, all of our teachers will be meeting with other teachers in the district. They'll be sharing out what they've done for part of this Q3 activity, and then we'll work on expanding their opportunities and looking at what they're going to do for Q4. Some of the best things about the work that we've done and how we chose to go about this activity and work with our teachers is the conversations they're having with each other and how they are seeing connections between the competency that they're working on and all the other competencies. So if they're working on communication, they also see that in order to have that communication, you have to have critical thinking and problem solving. And you have to have the ability to collaborate, and you really have to be self-directed. So what's growing as we work on one competency is each teacher's understanding of all 6 of those competencies, which we're finding very exciting. And I think our teachers are enjoying the work that they're doing.
Yeah, they're working at it, and what was nice at the beginning, you know how you get something new, and then if you lay it all out there, we studied up on them, okay, at one of the professional development days and said, where would you want to learn and grow? And made it more, we're always talking about personalizing for kids, it's like personalized for the staff as well. So it was like, well, where do you want to grow in? And then the cohorts were driven. So we have maybe 20 in one of the cohorts, but another one might have 12. You know, so it wasn't like a 25 each or what. It was like, where do you want to get better at, and where do you need to grow? So what we did here, the last 2 things we want to talk about, some deeper learning experiences that are going on. So 2 of them we wanted to highlight. One's an engineering, design, and manufacturing class. Stop over and see it. It's coming to
Really cool.
the end here. It's a cool project. But using research and design process, they were to create a recycled cardboard car that can fit 1 student, okay, and be pushed 10 feet and then let go and go for distance. That's what they're trying to do. So they built the prototypes up in the right-hand corner. You can see there's like just a single wheel on the darker one in the middle. That'll be interesting. Like, it was like, if you got to keep less friction's better. But if you don't keep that person steady, it's going to bind up on the axle, and then it's going to. So it's kind of interesting where they're going with that. But that's the prototype that they're building, the life-size one, and so they're going to pack somebody in there and push them. But just the whole design process, and you go back to these things. It's like when we talk to the teachers, it's like if you could take whatever you're going to do, and grab and have communication and collaboration as well as whatever you're doing, you're getting another win, right? So the object is if you can put all 6 of these things in every project or every assignment, or, okay, you might keel over in exhaustion, but the goal would be as much as you can to put as many of those things in there. Because this is what our profile of a graduate looks like. Okay, those 6 things, we want them proficient in those 6 things. So are we giving our kids experiences to learn and grow in all those? So, like I said, this is one of the examples. They keep a notebook, critical thinking, problem solving with all their notes in it. The research there, those are actually wheels made out of cardboard. It looks like kind of metal, but it's not. Those are reinforced inside so it can hold the weight. So that's something there. Here's just some collaborative pictures here, and I'm going to hit this, and I got a response and a reflection from one of the students. He's one of the team leaders.
That would be important for you to hear the kids.
What happened there?
Oh, you went forward, I think, there.
Is that on?
This project is different from other classes in the past because it's more student-led. Like, we have to go through all of the process ourselves from the research and the building without much guidance from our teacher.
What skills were critical?
Skills that could be important for this project is determination, and determination is beneficial for when things go wrong, and just work through things to help get through the problem and find out other things to make it work. And other skills are collaboration. Collaboration is good when working in teams because people don't always have the same ideas, and we need to work through them to find what's best for the team.
Difficulties was something we asked them.
Some difficulties that have arisen through this project is lack of
So that was his reflection. So a little bit about what the project was like, what he liked about it, difficulties, what skills, and it goes back to this whole piece about building, beyond the content mastery. This one is and this is our last little piece we wanted to share. An Algebra 1 class, it was the Ramen Noodle project. And I want to see if this comes on here, if you can hear it. So a thief stole a truck. You can hear. You can read along. All right, so the project was a truck, I don't know if you heard this, a truck got, with ramen noodles in it got stolen, okay? So it was a 53-foot at a truck stop. And they claimed that $100,000 of ramen noodles got stolen. And everybody said, really? $100,000?
Like 8 cents.
What's that?
Like 8 cents each.
No, that, and they're like.
But isn't that a good question?
Yeah, I would say that's where you're going, yeah.
Yeah, so you can see there, some of the things they were doing here. They collaborated. There's a case full of ramen noodles there that holds 24 packs. Down at the bottom, they were presenting out to each other's groups. And then we got feedback from this young lady as well, just on their project and what they thought and how it all came together. And we'd like to share it. On the top part is the self-reflection. They actually had to go through and self-reflect how they work in teams and what were their strengths and what could they have done better and things like that. So trying to grow in all those competencies just beyond I can do volume's coming up in this, right? Because you got to figure out the volume. So besides doing volume problems, okay, and rectangular prisms, let's figure something out real and do something with it. So, yeah, they were charged with, is a $100,000 ramen noodle, turning that into the insurance company for reimbursement. Is that logical or not? And could you prove that?
The ramen noodle assignment was different than most of my other classes because it's a very open project. There's only teacher guidance instead of teachers handing you directions. There are also a lot of moving parts in it. So like there's a lot of math involved in things that come back to the project and you kind of confused because there's just like a lot of it. But it was honestly, I thought it was a really fun project. And we had to do a lot of good math to get done. Some of the things I liked about the project are again that it was open-ended and it was just different from the Alex looked at the beginning of class. It was a real-life situation that we had to compare to math, and it could really help people live in the world. The math was interchanging, and you kind of had to just adapt. You had to adapt with the real situation. Within this project, most critical skills were teamwork, math skills, and then independent working. Teamwork was very important because you just needed everyone doing something to be able to complete at one time because it was kind of a short time period to be able to do it. You also need math skills because of course it's a math assignment, and then independent working because it's a team-based project, so you also do stuff on your own to be a team. At the end of the project, we had to try to present our information to our peers. So what we did was we put all information to a slideshow explaining how we tacked the problem. And so we had to list out different volumes for each of everything and just kind of put it all on from one slideshow and present it. And what we did was we did a gallery walk where one person from the group presented the information to a few students, and then they had a piece of paper
All right, so that was our presentation for today regarding these areas here, like we said, bright spots, challenges, and highlights. Definitely, the staff are doing a lot of great things and attempting to move forward with some of these different professional development opportunities that we've been discussing this year. And you can hear from the kids, some of these activities are really bringing together all those competencies and really, they have to share out what they learned. They have to be able to work in teams. They have to be self-directed. You heard that. So it's neat actually hearing them use the terminology too as they're talking and explaining. But that's our presentation.
That's us.
Questions and comments? All right, thank you, guys.
Thank you.
Thank you very much.
Really good work.
Get home before the snow starts.
Oh, invite me when they're testing the cars.
Me too. If you need a shorter person.
Yeah, thanks a lot. Appreciate all the support. And we're doing a lot of exciting stuff, just district-wide, so, yeah.
Thank you.
Thank you.
Awesome. So we will go on to 7.3, the legislative update. So the weather-related school closure, and I'm not talking about tomorrow, here I'm talking about the past, for anybody that's watching. So the Wisconsin State Superintendent does not have the authority to waive hours of instruction. And districts were notified that the Department of Public Instruction does not anticipate, even if they had that authority of approving any waivers, for hours and minutes lost due to weather-related closings. So the West Allis Milwaukee School District issued a plan for instructional makeup time. Schools will be in session on February 19th. That was previously a staff development day. And then high school students have a revised exam schedule, which now includes June 7th as a regular day of instruction with exams. And it was previously a makeup exam day, a day that we did not count towards the instructional hours requirements. The budget address, Governor Evers will deliver his budget address on February 28th, 2019. So lawmakers gave Evers until February 28th to release the document. And his office has indicated previously it was targeting that date for the address. So that's been confirmed, and we're all looking forward to what his budget proposal is going to be the first time around. In career and technical education, there's some potential additional support coming our way. The Senate Committee on Economic Development, Commerce, and Trade has scheduled a public hearing on Senate Bill 16, authored by Senator Dan Fain from Fond du Lac, relating to career and technical education incentive grants to school districts. SB 16 increases funding for the grants by $3.5 million in both the 1920 and 2021 fiscal years. Under current law, the Department of Workforce Development may award incentive grant to a school district in which students successfully complete certain industry-recognized certification programs. And we've been receiving some of those grant dollars, so it would be good to see that expand as we continue to move forward with our career and tech ed efforts as well. And then at the federal level, Office of Civil Rights is going to conduct compliance reviews on the use of seclusion and restraint, and the use of that school law. In January 2019, the U.S. Department of Education, DOE, announced an initiative to address the inappropriate use of seclusion and restraint in school districts. It includes three components: compliance reviews, data collection, and support for districts. The compliance reviews, OCR's 12 regional offices will conduct compliance reviews of school districts' inappropriate use of restraint and seclusion and the effect of such practices on districts' obligations to provide a free, appropriate public education. Under the Individuals with Disabilities Act, students with disabilities, a compliance review is an OCR-initiated case that targets compliance problems that are particularly acute, national in scope, or newly emerging. Upon conducting reviews, OCR will correct non-compliance through resolution agreements with districts. OCR has not provided any information about which districts will be reviewed, so we're not aware yet if we're going to be a part of that review process. Civil rights data collection. OCR will conduct data quality reviews and work with districts to review and improve restraint and seclusion data submitted as part of the civil rights data collection, which is a data collection that happens every other year. OCR will provide technical assistance to districts on data quality to ensure districts are collecting and reporting accurate data on restraint and seclusion. And then the support for districts, OCR, and then OSERS, and I had to look that one up actually, that one was new to me, Office of Special Education Rehabilitative Services, will partner to provide support to districts in a number of ways, providing technical assistance on legal requirements, providing technical assistance in helping districts understand how Section 504 and Title II of the Americans with Disabilities Act and IDEA informs the development and implementation of policies, ensuring districts have access to technical assistance and resources as they work to establish and enhance environments with increased interventions and supports and less restraint and seclusion, and then planning and conducting webinars related to the use of appropriate interventions for all students. So then I will go on to district recognitions, that is 7.4. So at Irving Elementary School on February 1st, 2019, the Irving Student Council concluded their Pennies for Patients campaign. Student Council supervisors Megan Heasley and Christina Martello and student council members worked with the Leukemia and Lymphoma Society to implement an all-school deeper learning project aligned to the character trait kindness. Students completed mini STEM projects and presented their new learning at the all-school community meeting. Students set a lofty goal of raising $2,000 for Pennies for Patients and far surpassed it, raising $3,559.66. And I think if it's a pennies drive, it's important to count the cents, right? There's 66 cents in there. That's awesome. Pershing Elementary School, during the week of February 4th, students participated in the Great Kindness Challenge. By the end of the week, Pershing was a Kindness Certified School for 2019. On Friday, the West Milwaukee Intermediate School Choir came to an all-school event to perform, Count on Me by Bruno Mars. So everyone sang together and made the song their own. At Walker Elementary School, innovation coach Katie Hart initiated a Girls Who Code Club with 18 girls participating. And counselor Kristen Brownell led Kindness Week there by having 4th and 5th grade students work with the entire school to turn Valentine's Day parties into an opportunity to give to others. Rather than bringing candy and treats for the classroom, students brought in food for a local shelter and items for the Humane Society. At Shared Journeys, students completed random acts of kindness by holding a food drive for a staff member in need, volunteering at local nursing home, and making Valentine's Day cards for residents. And student Ruben Bonilla was accepted into the Milwaukee Police Aid Program, so congratulations to Ruben. And then from Leadership for Learning, Irving Elementary School music teacher Scott Greger received a Certificate of Excellence for General Music from Milwaukee's Civic Music Association. He was nominated by orchestra general music teacher Casey Unger, who's at Irving Wilson and FLW, and who's also an alum of the district. And our facilities team, we want to really do a big shout out for members of the district's facilities team, so our maintenance, our custodians, our pod leaders, who worked really hard keeping facilities operating during the unusual cold spell, snow and sleet, and we know they're going to be out there again tonight. So, you know, they're the folks that not only have to clean their own sidewalks and driveways, but then they've got to clean up all the ones around the schools. And we really appreciate them in days like these where, you know, where the winter gets intense in Wisconsin. And then 7.5, just some really quick updates, couple information items. There were no public comments to respond to from our meeting on January 28th. I had the opportunity to go to the Mitchell Project-Based Learning Showcase the other day, and it was another kind of fascinating as we see more and more work of students, like we did from Hale, of making their work public and practicing good communication skills. And what started it at Mitchell is they were cleaning a closet and found one of the old 16mm film projectors that I'm sure all of you hopefully remember.
Yeah.
And on the projector was a film from when Mitchell opened, right? So they decided to build a big project around this, teaching kids, and even little ones, you know, how things change from past to present to future. And so they did a big kind of showing of that film, and then kids had exhibits all throughout the school. They set up a 1950s classroom in the building, so it was the old desks and rows and no technology anymore. And some of the kids said they wanted to stay in there because they could focus better. That's what the report. I was like, okay, so we do need flexible learning spaces. That's part of our facilities challenges. But I spent a lot of time talking to lots of kids about their projects and the things they learned and some of their projections about what, you know, fashion will look like in the future, what school food will be in the future. Was really kind of interesting as they work through it. And in particular, even, you know, 5-year-olds are explaining to me their big idea of why this is. And so I really wanted to just acknowledge Mitchell and, thank Ryan and the team there for the good work they're doing with deeper learning. I also wanted to, we heard about the Hale Hall of Fame. I wanted to thank Beth Kaler for being our district representative to the event, and there too acknowledging kind of the community spirit that builds at Hale and the work the Booster Club is doing there. And then for the board, we're beginning now to really start to drill into some of the policy work with our new Neola platform. And so, for example, Stephanie and I have started sitting down to kind of work through initial recommendations in the 100 series, then 1000 series. So there's a team kind of working in each of those areas that'll eventually come to the appropriate committee of the board for further review and discussion and final recommendations before it comes to the board. But we are really trying to use the Neola platform, right, because part of why we bought it, it's been vetted, right, it's been legally reviewed. But then also, are there unique things that are part of, our school district, our community and culture where the language really matters, and we bring that over into the recommendation, and we may not want those reviewed again. But that work will be ongoing. It's going to take a while. We may not get it all right the first time, but that's part of the work of the board is policies evolve. And this is a kind of big push to get us caught up, and then we can go back to the ones we think need more work. And then this week, Deidre and I are off to the AASA conference. It's a good week to be heading to Los Angeles. But it's another one of these opportunities for us that our work is starting to get attention. And so we'll be presenting on some of it's really the strategic planning work and how that pushes a continuous improvement effort in the district. And even this past week, we had folks at a local conference presenting here in Wisconsin for school counselors, and that now has generated some interest from both CISA and DPI to start sending teams to visit some of the work we're doing. So I think it's feedback that we're heading in the right direction. Part of our key message is that we're pleased with where we are, but we're not satisfied, right? And we have to keep moving forward to make sure that we do close the gaps and that all kids are getting what they need from us. But we're definitely getting feedback that it's in the right direction. And so that concludes the superintendent's report.
Okay, thank you very much. All right, we'll move on to item 8, the board calendar. So tonight, February 11th, is our regular Board of Education meeting, and immediately following, we will have a closed session meeting. Next Monday, February 18th, starting at 6 o'clock, we have a college and career readiness workshop on guaranteed and viable curriculum. On Monday, February 25th, starting at 6 p.m., we have a regular Board of Education meeting. Following that, a financial stability and efficiency workshop on our health benefits. And then on Monday, March 11th, starting at 6 p.m., is a regular Board of Education meeting, and then a financial stability and efficiency workshop on enrollment and staffing and budgeting projections for 2019 and 2020. Do any board members have any updates or community events? Jeff?
Just would like to remind board members and the community, the Monogram Club Scholarship Dance is scheduled for Friday, May 3rd. And you will recall that group gives between $10,000 and $12,000 in scholarships to our 2 high schools. Oh, and it's at a new location. It is not we used to have it at the Knights of Columbus, but now because they're not going to be around, we didn't just want to have it in this vacant lot. So we're doing it at the, excuse me, the new Berlin Ale House.
Oh,
Okay.
Because the other facilities around were not large enough to hold
Yeah.
the crew.
all right. Anybody else? Heather?
I had the opportunity last week to go, the AVID classes at Central, and my girls both went through there, and I'm very familiar with AVID. They had a showcase in Waukesha, so I got to go see how Waukesha does AVID, and it's an entire school-wide program, and it was just so interesting to see a physical education class that not only is doing physical education, but then they stop and they have notes, and what can I do to move forward, and what do I need to do to become better at this? So like physical notes in a physical education class. I was like, this is interesting. So I just wanted to thank Kent Kleinowski for inviting me to come along, and it was just fantastic to see. I mean, bilingual classrooms and things like that. I was like, holy cow. So it was just really cool experience. I was really glad I got to go see it.
Excellent. Anybody else? All right, we will move on to the consent agenda for tonight. Item 9.1, the approval of the minutes from the January 28th, 2019 regular Board of Education meeting. Item 9.2, the employment summary. And item 9.3, the supplementary contract. Does anyone need anything separated? If not, we'd be looking for a motion.
Move to approve 9.1, 9.2, 9.3.
Jeff, did you have another comment?
I need to recuse myself
Okay.
from the supplemental contracts.
You want to have it separated out so that you can be recused from just that item?
Yes, please.
Okay, so let's back out item 9.3. So we'd be looking for a motion for 9.1 and 9.2.
Move to approve 9.1, 9.2.
Okay?
Second?
Been moved and seconded for items 9.1 and 9.2. All those in favor say aye.
Aye.
Opposed? And then we'll be looking for a motion for item 9.3.
So moved. Second.
Okay, moved and seconded, and we have 2 recusals. All those in favor say aye.
Aye.
Opposed? All right, that passes. We'll go on to items 10, our action items and information items. Item 10.1.
Yep, thank you. 10.1 is a co-op, an athletic renewal for boys swim and dive. You remember the last time we did swim and dive, it was the girls' team. This is a renewal for 2 years. Again, it's something we support and want to continue to make sure we provide these opportunities for our high school students.
Move to approve?
Second?
All right, it's been moved, approved, and seconded. Any additional comments or questions? Nope. All those in favor say aye.
Aye.
Opposed? Okay, that goes on. And then item 10.2, the 2017-2018 school year audit report. Hi.
Howdy.
So 2 weeks ago, you heard on our snow day, you heard our report from the auditors, and they talked about some of the great work that we're continuing to do to bring our district into a good financial standing, and then they also touched on a couple of findings. So I'm just gonna go into a little bit of detail on just a few of those findings, and let you know what we're doing to address those and better our processes. One of the findings was a review of payroll that was absent. So what we've started to do is our comptroller now is reviewing the spreadsheets that our payroll specialist keeps. So she tracks, we have a bunch of different categories of people, of staff. About 85% of our payroll, it comes from salaried employees. So our payroll specialist keeps spreadsheets from one payroll to the next and what the changes are. So now we have somebody reviewing that and signing off each payroll. And then we also have, within the other 15% of payroll is hourly people. So we do, our comptroller is doing random audits, about 10% of those. She's auditing, just pulling a random timesheet and making sure that every step is accurate. So that's the addressing payroll.
Can I ask a
Yep, go
question
ahead.
on that? There's one at the end.
No, you can take it out. That's fine.
If we've always been audited and been doing this the same way,
Yep.
why is it wrong now?
It's just what they've looked at, I guess.
Okay.
So if it's always been like this, we could have gotten an audit finding 20 years ago or 10 years ago or 5 years ago. So it's just what they chose to look at this time.
Okay. Thank you.
Caitlin? I'm
Yeah,
sorry.
go ahead. No.
So as far as the auditing 10%, is that, within the recommendations from the
Oh,
auditors?
yeah, absolutely.
Okay.
Yep, I think we could have just stopped at the salaried employees.
Oh, okay.
So, yep.
Okay.
Caitlin,
Yeah.
just to get back to Jeff's comment, is it not, or is it standard for that thing to be done for our district in regards to payroll? And
Reviewing?
is that a review or a standard or not?
Yeah, I mean, I've seen it both ways, but I definitely think it makes sense for somebody to review payroll after the fact.
Correct.
We've obviously have the steps in place for the checks and balances for before somebody gets paid. It's just the final, a payroll person could, technically just increase the salary, and if nobody's checking that, nobody's checking that. So I think it's, it could go either way, but I think it's a standard practice that we should have.
Thank you.
Yeah. Another finding that we had was the lack of approved timesheets or time and effort sheets for people on grants. So what we do have in place now is a standard form that's kind of 2-in-1. So when an hourly person gets paid for time and effort, or their time and effort is documented on that same sheet with their amount of time they spent on that. So it's the activity that they spent on it, the account, and then that needs a grant manager's signature. So we've worked with the grant managers and with payroll to make sure that they know the importance of those signatures and the documentation of what that person's doing, that it's allowable on that grant, and making sure that everybody understands the importance of it. So if it gets to the grant manager and they sign off on it, great, and then it gets to payroll, and then she reviews that it has the appropriate signatures and appropriate information needed. Or if it happened to get to payroll and the grant manager's signature was missing, she would send it back to that grant manager. So that process is in place. And I think a lot of this is just communicating the importance of procedures. And we have this in place, but maybe we just, or this procedure, established, but we just have not been applying it as we should. So I think it's just going back to the standard procedures that we should have.
Just a comment.
Yep, go ahead.
I'm glad to see that there's a paper trail in regards to all this now, so that future board members can go back and take a look at it and discuss it, and superintendents can take a look at it and say, hey, this needs to be done,
Yep.
that needs to be done, red flags go up and so on.
Yep.
Because a few years ago, we had problems with people being paid money out of a grant that it wasn't supposed to be part of, and it was kind of
Correct.
a mess for a while.
Correct.
Yep, so we're getting there. And I'm glad you said paper trail, because you remind me of another thing that we're starting to implement on 7/1. Skyward has part of their software is called True Time, so it's essentially electronic timesheets. And we are starting the process of working with Skyward now on getting ourselves trained on that and what we need to do to implement it. And once we get that in, on 7/1, we'll be piloting it with just those hourly people that are working over summer. So it'll just be a small group. We'll be able to pilot it. There's a lot of setup because you have your pay codes and all your different, groups of people and everything. But once we get to that process, we literally won't be able to pay somebody from the wrong account or without an approver.
That's good.
Very good.
So it'll be a lot of setup, but it'll be, and a huge time saver as well, in addition to just having a smoother process, so. Another audit finding that we had was incorrect coding of expenses, so people essentially using the wrong account code. And so what I started to do when I got here was I kind of revamped our budget reports for each school and grant department. They weren't super user-friendly, and I work with accounts all the time, and they weren't really user-friendly to me, so I'm thinking, okay, somebody who, this is the last thing they do in a day, and they just pull a report, and if it's not easy to read, they're just gonna look at their bottom line and just not really care what else is on there. So I wanted to make them more user-friendly and just easier for people to understand. So what I did was I included account descriptions, so there's words on there now so they can actually see what their account means. Organize it a little bit differently, simply just adding spaces instead of just one huge long list. We organized by function instead of just one long list of objects. So it's just a little more user-friendly now. And then what I worked with our comptroller on is meeting with each principal and secretary and reviewing it, because I know you get something new, and it's, if nobody's reviewed it with you, it's just kind of like one more thing. So we went over it, and it's super useful, and so we use those new summary reports that they get automatically emailed to them on the first of the month, but they also now have access to view them whenever they want. So they don't have to just look at them in the first 5 days of the month. They can pull it whenever. And then another new piece that we implemented was a detail report. So it's the same list of accounts that they have, but now they can go in and see every single thing that hit that account. And I'm loving the light bulbs that are going off, because a lot of people keep a separate spreadsheet, and they're like, wait, so I don't have to do both? And I will absolutely never say, you have to do either one, and some people will keep it for backup, but the fact that they're realizing on their own, this extra stuff that they were doing, they don't have to do anymore, is awesome. So it's kind of just giving them ownership of their accounts, and then what we've been communicating is, hey, if you have a question on an account, you're not sure where to put it, instead of just guessing or I've always put it here, so I'm just gonna put it here, just please communicate with us, because it's so much easier to, get it right on the front end than fix it on the back end. So those are the steps we've been taking for that, and it's a huge time commitment, but I'm really excited about it because I see that people are appreciative of the time, and I know it's hard for both a secretary and a principal to be out of the hallways and their, the classrooms for a whole hour. So I appreciate the time that they're spending with us, and I know they appreciate it as well. So those are just some of the steps that we're taking to address our audit findings and better our practices, so. Yeah.
Caitlin,
Yeah.
just a comment.
Mhm.
I'm really grateful and thankful that you are here putting these programs together, because what it does do is it gives the public as well as our district a reason to say, look, here it is. You can take a look at it if you want to see it. This is what is happening. So that takes away some of the questions that have been in the past. So thank you. I appreciate it, really do.
Appreciate that.
Any other comments for Caitlin? Now we're looking for a motion.
Move to approve?
Second?
Been moved, approved, and seconded. Any additional comments or questions? All those in favor say aye.
Aye.
Opposed? Great work.
Thanks.
Thank you so much.
Thank you.
All right, we will move on to our information item for this evening, item 10.3 on the Human Growth and Development Track.
So I'll do a little introduction to this and then turn it over to Ryan and Adam. First, I want to thank all the members of the Human Growth and Development Committee that worked on this recommendation. It's always one that, gets revisited every 3 years. It used to be a requirement. It's not as much of a requirement anymore. But it is information that changes quite a bit, right? So over time, and we're due to have this revisited. And so I want to thank the team that, put in the work, and they'll explain kind of what they did and where they landed. What I want to do for the public is just explain, because this is a little unusual, not entirely unique, but a little unusual, that this is an information item only. So we're not asking the board to take action on the recommendation from the Human Growth and Development Committee. But we did want to take the opportunity to inform the board and be really open and transparent about, some a change that's taking place. Under board policy, the board is required to approve new courses, but there's nothing in that policy language that requires the board to drop a course. And that's essentially what the recommendation that you'll hear is going to be. And when Heather and Stephanie and I kind of talked through it, like we don't want to create a new precedent where every time we want to drop a course, we're running, we're using up all of your time and our time. And, but this is a change that I think is worthy of a public conversation. And so that's why we're presenting it as an information item. And so with that, I'll turn it over to the two of you.
Okay, thank you. As Dr. Lexman said, information item. Ryan's going to speak a little bit about the history as he's been working with the HG&D committee, and he's got some background information on that. But I think our importance, we're looking at, excuse me, dropping the health abstinence centered course, as we've shared in board updates and in committee, that both of those courses currently are abstinence based. So there's the opportunity for all students to have that, and looking at dropping that abstinence-centered, sorry, I don't want to trip over my words, at the abstinence-centered, even with the elimination of that course, there will still be opportunities if students are interested in engaging in that approach for a certain unit, where the students will be able to, whatever the unit is, if it's 4 weeks or 3 weeks or 6 weeks, the students will be able to be provided an additional location where they can complete online coursework as they would have in the past. But really, we're looking at the elimination of course number 9220, or 9920, which is the Health Abstinence Centered. So I'll let Ryan go over a little bit of history on what the HG&D group has done, and then I'll kick back in and we can talk about resource adoption coming up in the spring.
Okay. Good evening, everybody. Thank you for having us here and the opportunity to speak on behalf of the Health Education, Physical Education Department. This is my 18th year, and I would want to note that as there is history kind of in terms of these curriculum deliveries, and what it's most important, it's about what's best for the community, engaging feedback over the years. But really what's come to fruition, or kind of the forefront, is the need for the common message to say, as we're working through our ICANN statements, this is what our students know and are able to do, to be able to demonstrate with their high school diploma. So in our collaboration for the last year and a half, Brian Marks and myself kind of work very closely with the Physical Education Department kind of as the leads. We really wanted to do some team building, some collaboration on identifying, working with Mr. Hengel and Ms. Raymer, what are non-negotiables, what is it in terms of our branding or identity. And what we found is that throughout the department, we may be delivering from 2 textbooks, but ultimately when we really identify what is alike and what is different, with respect, it's kind of the same. But we also wanted to be mindful in terms of family choice, and as I had mentioned in my second year of teaching in 2002, kind of the second-year teacher, I was one of the first responsible to deliver both textbooks, kind of feeling my way through. and trying to get some feedback as much as we can. I really enjoyed teaching from the two, but I really want to emphasize the importance of and how we've evolved over time. In terms of abstaining until marriage, that is really kind of with what the community would like to see. That's, I've yet to meet, somebody that doesn't feel strong about that. So we really want to kind of strengthen that and take a look at self-esteem, short-term, long-term goals, and as we kind of work through. In terms of update, there's some work to do, as mentioned, because we've delivered from 2 textbooks. The original one I kind of referred to as the Health 10, the yellow textbook, was about mid-1995, 96 was kind of the original purchase. Our green textbook, which is kind of the absence only, kind of the elective, if you will, was purchased in 2003-04, and I was on the Health Curriculum Committee in 05-06. And since my first year of teaching, I kind of knew the importance of, with respect to lots of other curriculums, health education. Why did I become a health teacher to begin with? It's because it's the curriculum that affects each of us every second of our life. So we really want to take a look at kind of the update and modern resources. This is just kind of the beginning of the work, and we feel strong about kind of the consolidation and kind of having that common message for all of our families. But as Adam had mentioned, we really want to emphasize what has not changed over the years is the opt-out option for families that feel strong about delivering in a different way.
Yeah, so moving forward, like I said, Ryan's been working with the health committee to identify appropriate resources that align with choices and that are sensitive to our families' needs. Through some initial conversations, there's not a lot of resources that are meeting some of the alignment into our board policies in recognition of all of our students and being inclusive of all of our students. So there's going to be some supplementary pieces that we're going to be writing ourselves in order to be reflective of that for our district. But we'll follow the same procedure for resource adoption, that we'll have open committee meeting where we bring resources, and then board workshop as well coming up this spring.
Questions?
All right.
No?
Good work,
Okay.
guys. Thank you
All
so
right.
much.
Thank you
for
very
your
much.
input.
Thank you. Thank you.
Okay, that is the end of our action items for the evening, so we will take a quick 5-minute break while we take down the cameras and get ready for executive session in 5 minutes. Thank you, everybody.